Hi guys. Okay, so today we are going to start talking about how to ask good scientific questions. So we're going to start with that. And in order to do that, we have to really understand how to figure out our independent and dependent variables. So we'll start with what is science? So we know science is a system of knowledge, and it's about how the world works, and it's a method of how you use to get that knowledge. So it typically begins with curiosity, so a question or an observation, and it ends with discovery. So we perform some sort of experiment and we discover something. So we were working on making observations. I hope you all remember how to get qualitative, no numbers, and quantitative, with numbers, observations. Today we're going to be talking about the scientific questions, how to form a scientific question. So to begin, in your scientific notebook, go ahead and look at these pictures. Okay, look at these pictures really quick, and I would like you to give me 4 observations, one for each picture. So go ahead and pause your video right now and give me 4 observations, one for each picture. Okay? Now, I'd like you to give me 4 questions, one for each picture. So based on your observations, give me 4 questions, one for each picture. Go ahead and pause your video and do that now. Okay. Now, how are scientific questions different than normal questions? Well, scientific questions are answerable. That means that they have an answer that we can find, and we can find them by performing an experiment or a test. So we're going to look at some examples to better understand. But first, we need to make sure we understand what all scientific questions must have. They must be testable, meaning I should be able to perform an experiment in order to figure out the answer. They have to be measurable, meaning I have to be able to somehow measure the results that I get from my experiment to come to a conclusion. And they have to show a cause and effect relationship between 2 variables. This is where knowing your independent and your dependent variables are important. They also cannot start with why. Typically, a scientific question, which I'll show you in a sec, is phrased, how does blank affect blank? So what is a cause and effect relationship? The cause is what we think, okay, making something happen, so whatever we think is making something happen, and it creates an effect. The effect is a change that is a result or consequence of the cause. So this is our independent variable. This is our dependent variable. So we're looking for a relationship in our scientific question between these 2. So good scientific questions should be phrased, how does blank affect blank? And in the first blank, we're going to write our independent variable, or the cause. And in our second blank, we're going to write our dependent variable, or the effect. So here's an example. We have 2 bicycles. One of them is kept in your room, but there is not more space for the other. So you decide to leave the other bicycle outside, even when it rains or snows. You notice that the bike, after some time, you notice that the bike inside is just fine and doesn't show any signs of rusting, but the one outside has rusted in many places. So you may start to ask a question. How does water affect how fast metal rusts? How does sunlight affect how fast metal rusts? How does the presence of plants affect how fast metal rusts? So we're going to look through these really quick, and we're going to look through our checklist of what all scientific questions must be and figure out if they fit. So does this show a cause and effect relationship? The cause is water. The effect is how fast metals rust. So the cause and effect relationship. Is this testable? Could I create an experiment to test that? Probably, right? I could create an experiment where I put water on one metal and not on another, and I see which one rusts faster. The same thing for this one. How does sunlight affect how fast metals rust? Well, here's our cause, and here's our effect. I could definitely do an experiment where I leave one piece of metal in the sun and one piece of metal in the dark and figure out how fast the metal rusts. And finally, how does the presence of plants affect how metals rust? Well, the presence of plants would be our cause, and how fast metal rusts would be our effect. So that is a cause and effect relationship. It's testable because we can put metal next to plants and metal not next to plants and see which one rusts faster. They are all really good, probably scientific questions that could be spurred on by the observations we made about the bike. Bad scientific questions. So bad scientific questions. Why is rust the color brown? Remember, why is not a good scientific indicator because I can't test why. Why is more about the knowledge that you have rather than testing to learn new knowledge. Where does rust come from? Again, that's one of those things that is definitely more on scientific knowledge rather than, experimentations to get that scientific knowledge. Why is there rust in the first place? Again, not a good scientific question because it is not testable, it's not measurable, I can't measure it. So we're going to practice. So here we have several questions, and I would like you to tell me if they are good scientific questions or bad scientific questions. And you will do this by putting an S if it's a good scientific question and an N if it's a bad scientific question. And then you're going to give me a reason why you think that in your SIN. So I'm going to have you go ahead and pause the video right here. Remember, write an S for a good scientific question or an N for a bad scientific question, and then give me a quick sentence about why you think that for each of these 8 examples. Go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, so let's talk about this. So how does giving vitamins to a cow affect how much milk they produce? I hope that you said it was a good scientific question because it is definitely testable. We could give some cows vitamins and not some other cows, and we could measure how much milk they produce. So it is testable, it's measurable, and the cause is the vitamins and the effect is how much milk they produce. So that would be a good one. How do bees like honey? Well, I don't really see a cause and effect here. That's not really a good scientific question, so I hope that you wrote an N for this. How do different substances affect the amount of bees that are attracted to it? So this would be a good scientific question because it shows our cause and effect relationship, different substances, and the number of bees attracted to it is the effect. It is measurable because we can count how many bees are attracted to it, and it's testable because we can put different substances like honey, vinegar, water out and see how many bees are attracted to it. Why do students who eat Cheerios weigh less than those who eat Lucky Charms? Well, that's a why question. Immediately you should have been like, bad scientific question because we don't use why questions for scientific questions. And you would be right. So the last 4 we will do at the beginning of class next time, and we can continue checking. So if you've learned something from the first 4 examples we did, I hope that you can modify your last 4 and make them fit what you've learned. So thank you.